not to the exclusion of Tarsha. Of course, we're celebrating her birthday and Delilah's birthday.
And Alex.
And Alex, of course. Amen. Our message today is out of Matthew chapter 17. Now, to some of you, this may sound like an Easter message, but it's not, because we're in August. So we're starting at verse 22. That's Matthew chapter 17, starting at verse 22. So there, while they abode, that's Jesus and the disciples, while they abode in Galilee. Remember, they started off in that place in the first place. Jesus said unto them, the Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. And they were exceeding sorry. Well, there's a number of interesting things going on here. First of all, he's talking in the third person, the Son of Man. He's talking about the Son of Man. He didn't say, this is what's going to happen to me, to the Son of Man, because he referred to himself as the Son of Man. Now, you say, why? What's the big deal about Son of Man? Well, because he was man and God. And his disciples related to him as a man. They said things like, how is that even the wind and the waves he has authority over? What kind of man is this guy? Because he was man and he was God. And it's easy to forget that Jesus was truly God as well as truly man. So it says in the beginning of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. This is Jesus. And when you read Genesis, the first chapter, it says clearly, and God said. And he created everything by speaking it into existence. That's why it's so important that we understand he is the Word of God. His Word was powerful enough to create everything that you can see and touch. So when you think of Jesus, don't forget that he's truly God. That whatever your problem is, he's bigger than your problem. He knows how to fix it. So it says there, Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men. Why is that important to us? Because we've often encountered a situation where we think, I'm done for. I can't pay my bills. I'm ill and it's causing problems. And I can't do this and I can't do that, don't have this. And it's like, we often act like God is poor. Jesus has no ability. But that's not the case. He said, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. Our circumstances often work to kill the Son of God in us. It's like, we can't do anything for us. I don't know where he is. Sometimes we even think he's too late, and he's never too late. He showed up 4 days after Lazarus had died, and he still called Lazarus out of the grave. What's the significance of 4 days? Because according to Jewish tradition, nobody could be raised after 3 days. Nobody could be raised. But Jesus called him out of the grave 4 days afterwards. Yeah. Because he's God. He can do that. Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men. And we come into those circumstances and we think, I can't fix it, nobody can fix it, and God can't fix it. And even when he shows up when we think it's too late, it's never too late. When he shows up and addresses our situation, it's never too late. It's always later than what we wanted. I mean, we want our problems fixed like that, but it doesn't work that way. We don't get into them like that, and we don't get out of them like that. We have to usually work pretty hard to get ourselves into a bind. They shall kill him, and on the third day he shall be raised again. It doesn't matter how much, as a Christian, you can kill off Jesus in your life, he's still going to come back. He still comes back and he shows up in the places you don't expect him to show up. Just like after he rose. He shows up at the gravesite. Mary Magdalene said, just give me the body of Jesus and we'll take care of it. And then he just spoke her name. Mary. And boom, she knew who she was talking with. He met the two men on the way to Emmaus. He met them in the upper room. When the door was locked, he walks in. Tells Thomas, look at my hands, look at my feet, stick your hand in my side, you'll see that it's me. Then he picked up food and started eating it. You know, that's no ghost. This is a real thing. Do we really recognize Jesus for who he is? He's not just some guy who died for us 2,000 years ago. I repeat, he's not just some guy who died for us 2,000 years ago. A man had to die for the sins of mankind. That's why he became flesh. But the only one that could forgive those sins was God. And the only one that was sinless was God. So it had to be God in the flesh. That's why he came, to die on the cross. Now he agonized in the garden. Not because of the pain. That's what he came for. That's what he said. That's what I came for, was to die on the cross. It was because the sin itself was going to separate him from the Father. And the one thing that he did more than anything else was pray. Get into the presence of God. Now this is God himself speaking with the Father. And what he did most of all was pray. And that separation was the problem that he had, dying on the cross. That separation from the Father. Even on the cross, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because the Bible clearly tells us God cannot look upon sin. And it said that he was made sin for us. He didn't take our sins. He was actually made to be that sin. And it was crucified. By the will of God, it was crucified. That's why he didn't quibble or anything when they said, crucify him, crucify him. Because these men that meant evil for him, it was still the purpose of God. He was fulfilling his purpose in coming to the earth. Being whipped and then nailed to the cross until he died. Now, like I said, there are times when we will crucify God in our life by looking at a situation and saying, I'm done for. And I can say this. I've faced many of those situations, even with my wife, but our reaction isn't, I'm done for. It's, God, we can't do anything without your help. We've had good times, we've experienced bad times. And through all of it, God brings the good times and God brings the bad times. Did you know that everything negative in your life, God takes responsibility for? Because everything negative in your life, God brought it there to draw you closer to him. Everything. There's not one thing in your life that you don't like that God didn't put there, and he takes responsibility for it. Simply to get you closer to him. So we come back. We will, as Christians, come across times in our lives when we think that Jesus is dead. We can't hear his voice, don't sense any direction, don't know what to do. Now you got to ask yourself, why does he do that? Actually, that's the closest relationship you can get to Jesus. Why is it? Because he trusts you. You know the principles of God, and he expects you to apply those to your situation and to trust him. How can you trust him? Not just by knowing the principles of God, but having gone through things of a similar nature previously that God took you through, that you can talk about today. So when you can't hear his voice, it's okay. Sometimes he's just not going to talk because he wants to see what you're going to do under pressure. The Bible says, many are called but few are chosen, and it says in Isaiah, I believe, we're chosen in the furnace of adversity. When the heat turns up, we determine, are we going to follow God? Or are we going to cut and run? I think most of us at some time decided to cut and run. And where do you got to run to? Where did it take you? Right back to where you were. Always. Nowhere to go. So, what do? Stand and look to God. Trust Him, believe Him, step into it. Press in. Trust Him to deliver you. Because there is no other deliverance. Nothing else, no one else. Your bank account isn't going to deliver you. Your good looks aren't going to deliver you. Your 401k isn't going to deliver you. Your IRA isn't going to deliver you. Nothing's going to cut it. Only Jesus. And where do you think those things came from? The 401k, the IRA, your looks, everything. It all came from God in the first place. All a gift to you. And He's still giving us every day, takes care of us. He will be raised again. He's always raised again in our life. He'll show up in places you never expected him. See, I'm back. Deal with that. I'm back and I'm fixing your situation. Now they were exceedingly sorry when they heard he was going to be, they're going to kill him. And they were still just as sad after he said he'll be raised again. Well, it applies to us as well. We all have a time to die. From the first breath that we take, we're all destined for the same place. But that's okay, because we're promised immortal, eternal bodies just like Jesus when we get there. Even those going into the lake of fire, they get eternal, immortal bodies as well. It's just that the landscape is so good. Not so much to enjoy. That's the message for today. This is really about trusting God. When things are bad, the whole idea is not to expect them to get worse. They could get worse, but it doesn't matter. You have to trust God to get you out of your circumstance. Amen. Oh, I said, when you're at the bottom, the only way is up. Doesn't matter where. Any direction is up when you're at the bottom. And that's what I encourage you with. God will always take you off the bottom. He wants to bring you up. He wants to bring you higher. He wants to bring you into His presence. Hidden in the secret place of the Most High, where the enemy can't touch you. So that's our challenge, each and every day, to press into the presence of Jesus. So we can be hidden in that secret place, where the enemy can't touch us. That's what He's got for us. Amen.
Amen.